Let's get this straight. Bows aren't finesse weapons. Drawing 180 pounds of medieval longbow is not a dexterity check. That is a strength roll. Fantasy gets archery wrong all the time. In Dungeons and Dragons, just might be the worst offender. I make real bows. I make real arrows. And this is how I think archery in D&D could better reflect real world mechanics. For me, here's where D&D really drops the ball. Bow damage. They treat bows like finesse weapons, so dexterity affects your damage roll. But drawing a bow, that's pure strength. The damage a bow does comes from how hard you could pull it, quite literally. Medieval warbows ranged from 80 to 180 pounds of draw weight. That's brute force, not finger gymnastics. If D&D were realistic, bows would scale with your strength stat, just like melee weapons. Now let's talk about accuracy. D&D gives bows a dexterity-based hit bonus, but landing a shot isn't about agility. It's about wisdom. Archery is about understanding your gear. It's about reading distance. It's about compensating for wind. It's about knowing how your equipment works. And it's about learning how your arrows behave in different conditions. If you've ever shot a bow, you know it. Hitting your mark is more mental than physical. You build consistency through repetition, judgment, and situational awareness. D&D should reflect that. Bows are technical tools, and their use should reward experience, not just reflexes. Another thing that bugs me, in D&D, bow range does not scale at all. A level 1 archer can shoot up to 120 feet with perfect accuracy. And it's only after that that they suddenly get disadvantaged. And that's just not how real archery works at all. In real life, accuracy comes with training. Beginners are barely consistent out to 10 yards. Real progression would mean increasing your bow's effective range over time. I could see the argument that a level 1 adventurer who is a highly capable person might be accurate out to about 20 yards or 60 feet with their bow. At level 5, rangers should start to see improvement, and their bow's effective range should grow to about 50 yards, 150 feet, easily. At level 9, Olympic level consistency at 70 meters. That's 230 feet, or 46 squares for the nerds watching. Letting a bow's effective range scale with level would make archery in D&D just feel way more grounded. But more importantly, it would give rangers back their niche. Right now, rangers get sidelined by fighters and rogues with bows, who get better stats, better class features, and they don't even need to specialize. Let's talk about longbows. The longer your bow, the more stable your aim. But why? Because of something called stack. As you draw a bow, the draw weight increases. Not in a straight line, but exponentially. That means the further you pull, the harder it gets. Stack happens when the string angle increases sharply as you draw, and it makes the bow pull harder, faster. Longer bows have gentler angles, so you don't get a massive spike in draw weight from pulling a little further. On the flip side, if you don't pull back all the way, you also lose less weight than expected. The force curve is shallower, which means your shot power stays more consistent even if your draw varies a bit. And consistency is what makes an archer accurate. In D&D, shortbows have an effective range of 80 feet, whereas longbows have an effective range of 120 feet. That extra range is likely meant to reflect the consistency bonus that you get when you use longbow instead of a shortbow. But there's more to it than just the length of your bow. So what about shortbows? They're often thought of as the little sibling to longbows. But in truth, it's a lot more complicated than that. Shorter doesn't necessarily mean weaker. In fact, well-designed short bows can punch as hard, if not harder than longbows, because they have better energy transfer. Every bow has an optimal ratio of working limb to draw length. And when that balance is right, even a smaller bow can hit like a truck. It's hard to get into without getting into some very theoretical science and physics, but trust me, size isn't everything. It's a factor for sure, but not the only one. Now let's bring it back to D&D. Longbows do 1d8 damage, where shortbows only do 1d6. But this doesn't reflect the full story. A well-designed shortbow can be just as effective as a longbow. It's just a very theoretical and complex topic that the rules don't have the depth to explore. Now let's talk recurves. D&D doesn't even mention them, but they should. Recurve bows fix the stack issue by curving the tips forward. That gives them better string angles and more efficient energy transfer without needing the full length of a longbow. In the real world, this means you can outperform both longbows and shortbows with the right recurve design. Right now, the rules don't cover it, but they should. Compared to bows, crossbows are a whole different story. They were popular because anyone could use them. 2 hours of training and you're battlefield ready. Not because they were better, but because they were easier. Unlike bows, they didn't require years of practice and years of training. Just crank and shoot. A large crossbow with a 960-pound draw weight wasn't pulled by hand. It had levers and cranks to make it easier. Even lighter crossbows, the kind they issued more widely, had built-in stirrups, special handles that you'd step on to get more leverage for your draw. Because of this, I think crossbows should do flat damage, based on the quality of the crossbow. If you want a higher damage dealing crossbow, upgrade your weapon, start paying for it. In D&D, crossbows shouldn't scale with your stats, but they should be able to get literally anybody into the fight. Arrows should matter too in D&D. You don't just have one kind of arrow. You have bodkins for getting through armor. You have broadheads and swallowtails for tearing through flesh. You have fire arrows for sabotaging structures. And so many other kind of arrows that you could just go on and on. And it's not even just about the tip of the arrow. The arrow itself. Cheap arrows made out of something like poplar will simply snap on use. A nice strong arrow made out of something like ash can take a beating. You've got footed arrows, which can take a beating. They're lighter than all hardwood arrows. And in the world of D&D, they're just an interesting flavor piece. The arrow you use should make a difference, and it should change your 2-hit bonus and your damage modifier. I understand that it makes the game slightly more complex, although arguably still simpler than playing a wizard. And honestly, it might just be too much for some tables. But it would help players feel more immersed in their character. Let's talk D&D realism. Longbows, shortbows, recurves, they all suck indoors. You're gonna hit the ceiling. And not just the ceiling, I've hit tree limbs. It only takes a couple bad strikes to break your bow. Recurves, they're hard to build. It takes specialty tools and a specialty skill set. Finding a bower who can do that should be rare in a fantasy world. Then of course we have metal crossbows. They are super expensive. A commoner or even a level 1 adventurer certainly wouldn't have access to one. Arrows. They're not infinite. My biggest quiver holds maybe 15 arrows. And if I get one of the oversized novelty quivers, I can hold around 40. Now, of course, fantasy doesn't have to be real, but it should feel real. If you're going to make archery part of your world, tie it to real world mechanics. Strength to draw, wisdom to aim, and gear that actually makes a difference. That's how I design every bow and every arrow I make. None of it's just for display, it's entirely for function. And if you want to see what real craftsmanship looks like, you're already in the right place.